That's what he's saying. So we're at this time of the year, Jose, where it's a really good kind of practice to look at your business and say, hey, like what's working, what's not working, and what needs the most help. And you actually just went through this process for your team. Is that right?
Correct. So we have a company that comes out once a quarter, and once a quarter they help us set quarterly plans, and they help us assess what we did well and what we need help with. And then we have a weekly meeting with them where we basically work on those tasks every single week, and then we delegate those tasks to whichever team member is best equipped for that task, basically. So we had them out, and what I found interesting, and I told the gentleman, shout out to Austin. I told Austin, I was like this is by far one of the best exercises that I've been a part of, because they show a slide. Like, I'll give you an example. It'll say like resources. They break it down into different categories, like resources, inspiration, systems, and engagement. And then for resources is like, okay, like how is your training for your company? How are your financials? Meaning, like, do you have a person that basically has, like, if I asked you for a profit and loss today, could you provide that? Could you get one to me? Then it asks for assessments. When you hire people, do you basically use an assessment tool to hire them? And it has you rank them from 1 to 3 in each one of those. And what came low for us on the resources was the training aspect, like, meaning, do we have a clear process whenever we onboard an agent or onboard an admin for training them that, like, hey, look, like if somebody leaves, you can basically replace them like that, or it's like a very clear process. And that came out the lowest. The financials was spot on. We use assessments. I can't read my writing on one of them, but that was the one that came lower. Then there was another one that was like, and that one, the resources is time, money, and people, basically. But so what we can do here is create our own assessment for you guys, and then maybe you take out a pen and you start ranking yourself from 1 to 3, and this is going to help you plan for 2026 to see what you need to work on in your business. So let's go, Novello. Start us off. Hold on.
Yeah. So if we scale that down, right, because you're operating a large kind of operation, a little business, little thing we're working on, and at the same time, I know you have lots of employees, lots of staff. So I think if we were to do this for an agent, let's say
an individual agent,
an individual agent, and say like, okay, do we have a process for like putting listings on the market for sale? Is there an actual system in place? And is there someone that's responsible for doing that other than me?
So rank that from 1 to 3. 3 being like, hey, that's spot on. I have nothing to do with that department. And 1 being like, no, it's me uploading the listing at 11 at night, basically typing up the listing, basically.
That's right.
So that's one of the things. So let's start off. So one of them will be MLS. Do you have a process for that?
Yep. And inputting data into the multiple listing service. Is there a system? Is there a process? And is somebody else other than you doing it? And we can rate that 1 to 3.
Okay. I love that. What else?
The second would be the same on transaction coordination. Is there a system? Is there a process? And is there somebody else that's doing that for you? And then we can go back in the other direction in terms of like, when an appointment's set.
So I'm thinking, I'm even thinking about this, bro. So like, you know how they divided it into different categories, basically. This could be the leverage category.
This MLS could be like the leverage category.
Operations leverage category. Like, because all of this is around leverage. Like the TC, the MLS, that's all leverage. So we create like different and maybe one day we'll have an assessment when somebody joins the organization or when they're business planning. their business planning. It's like, hey, look, take this assessment. That way we can, and fill it out. That way we can know what you need the most help with. And this is the leverage, or the people, or this is the people
Yeah.
aspect, or
Yeah,
resources, or whatever.
the
Yeah.
operations component. So if we stick with this, and then we can go into like, we can have like a sales component as well, like a category. But
Yeah, exactly.
in operations, it's like, all right,
Is your number on the MLS?
yeah, that's right. So like, am I
is
the,
your phone number on the for sale sign?
yeah, it's
Is
kind of
your
like,
number on Zillow, Trulia, Realtor.com?
yeah, so that could be around just like access, we could call that,
Access, yeah.
right? So is your number on all of these things? Rate that 1 to 3. 1 being no, it's not on any of them. 2 being maybe it's on a few of them. 3 being it's on all of them.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have an assistant, whether they be virtual or in person?
Do you have administrative help?
Correct. Administrative assistants.
Okay.
Oh, do
So
you use a CRM? Like really use one? Like, you know what I'm saying? And are your checklists and standard operating procedures in the CRM?
even around the checklist portion of it, could somebody look at your checklist and know what to do? Like, so for example, our checklist, there is an SOP under each item. Like, hey, upload the listing to Dropbox. There is so like literally, if they follow the checklist, there's a video and instructions on how to do every single one of them, basically.
Yeah. So could they follow the checklist without having to reach out to you?
Yeah. And if they can't, then it's going to be very difficult for you to train people if you can't even have a process that they can follow, or a system that they can follow, because they're not going to have a standard operating procedure. There's a reason why you can put a minimum wage worker at McDonald's and they can do it just as good as anybody, is because they have a procedure. So even like for the checklist, that goes or I was going to say that goes before the assistant, but maybe the assistant can even help you create the checklist, basically.
They can. My experience with that is that, like,
It's more challenging now.
I think the challenge is oftentimes agents will hire an assistant in hopes that they will create the checklist and the
Very
system,
rarely.
and it almost never works. Instead, what needs to happen is the agent needs to kind of create the system and hire somebody to work the system.
Yeah,
So
that's what we did as well too,
yeah,
basically.
same. That's what we did as well. So yeah, I think that's really good in that category around like operations, right? Now, if we were to take and look at a different category, let's say like sales.
Well, even if we go back to lead generation.
Yeah, lead generation, whatever you want to call it. Yeah.
Lead generation, then sales or whatever.
Yeah. So yeah, okay. So lead gen.
Yeah.
So do I have a way of kind of acquiring leads where I can just show up and start calling people? Or am I involved in the gathering of data, in the uploading into kind of dialing systems, in the cross-referencing and getting contact information? Like, am I doing that myself? Or do I have a system that allows me just to step in the morning, and after I do my morning routine, just get on the phone?
Yeah. Meaning, are my list systemized so I can just get on the telephone? Because
Right.
the reality is that if you have to prepare your list, that takes time away from prospecting. And that's another thing. Like, it's almost like if I got to drive to go to the gym, that could be like an additional thing versus me having the gym like in my own house, basically,
Yeah.
It's one less thing that gets in the way, basically.
Yeah. And what I share with people is, if anything requires kind of like willpower, the more friction that you have,
Yeah.
the more barriers between you and the thing, the less likely you'll actually do the thing. Right. So Jose has a gym in his house because it radically increases the probability that he'll
doing-
actually do what he needs to do, because otherwise his schedule is such and it's so tight, him to have to like stop what he's doing, get in the car, go drive. it's too time consuming, right? So
Well, even me, like, working from my home office as
yeah,
well too, it makes it so that, like, I can get everything I want done because it just makes it so much more efficient, if everybody
yeah.
knew that the number 1 agent in Ventura County, bro, works out of their home, that'd be insane, like
Yeah, and I did that for a super long time for the same reason, because you realize like, wow, dude, I can be wildly efficient,
extremely.
by doing that. So, okay, that's a really good one in the lead department. Another one would be like, are the majority of my lead sources referral, like independent of referral fees? And that's interesting, right? Because if they're not, that can become like a
Could add
problem on
risk, basically. Yeah.
it could add risk. So a lot of people do like, the home lights or like those platforms where, they take larger and larger referral fees. They also try to push you into their ancillary services, things of that nature. So it would just be something important to like notice.
Or
Like,
even if you don't have that set up, like, hey, if you aren't getting those referral sites, maybe like, hey, like, have I signed up for some of the referral sites to get
yeah,
some business? So I would say, like, do I have lists that are lower on the funnel in terms of cash conversion cycle and are blue oceans
I know.
regardless if I have to learn a new skill?
Yeah. And here's the thing. So there's a lot to unpack in what you just said. Like, I know what you just said. At the same time, like, when you say higher cash conversion cycle, to break that down and to define that, what that means is, do I have lead sources that on average convert quicker? So in other words, like if you're nurturing like a farm, let's say, that those leads require a lot of nurturing before they produce fruit, right? The cycle might be like 6 months, 9 months from the time you speak to somebody and they're like, hey, we're thinking about doing something, to the time that they actually do something and they sign a contract and you get paid. Versus, let's say, like probate will have a little bit quicker of a cash conversion cycle, maybe 90 to 120 days, versus cash offer leads has a even quicker conversion cycle of like 30 days on average. So when Jose's using these terminology, I just want to make sure you understand what he's saying. And then when he says, blue oceans, like, what does that mean? Well, the major kind of voices in our space in terms of real estate and coaches or gurus, they'll oftentimes talk about what I like to label the four horsemen, right? Expireds, canceled, for sale by owners, just listed, just solds. And because that is the case, we would define those as red oceans. Red oceans meaning there's lots of sharks in the water and lots of blood in the water, right? And that's fine. We're great whites. We can push into spaces and get our unfair share of the business. At the same time, it would make logical sense, practical sense, being that we can now make data-driven decisions around lead sources, to swim in pools of data that have higher densities of motivated qualified sellers, right? So really assessing, part of this analysis is assessing your lead sources, sourcing your business over the last, 10 and a half months, 12 months, and say, hey, where are these coming from? And are any of these higher up on the cash conversion cycle? And are any of these blue oceans where there's less competition? And can I learn these new lead sources and learn the skills that are required in order to take advantage of the opportunities in those new lead sources moving forward?
And then when I talk cash conversion cycle, is like sometimes, like, I'll talk to people like, I got no escrows, like, I need an escrow. I'm like, okay, what are you calling? They're like, I'm calling just listed, just sold. And I'm like, hey, just so you know, the from the time you generate just listed, just sold to the time that on average it takes to convert, it's usually 12 to 18 months.
It's wild.
12 to 18 months, guys. So, like, a lot of times, like, these agents are like, look, dude, I'm doing 50 contacts a day and, like, I don't have any business. Well, you got to realize that lead source takes time to convert and there's a lot of follow up in that. And I tell people, I'm like, look, if you want to get a deal, I even thought about, like, at one point, Aaron, creating like a funnel and then basically ranking the lead sources based on top of funnel or bottom of funnel. Bottom of the funnel is like closest to being into business. Believe it or not, an expired is actually bottom of funnel,
Yeah,
which means
they're
you can
usually
call
ready
an
to do something
expired
quickly.
today
Mhm.
and they'll do something like today. Like, meaning what I liked about when I called in expired is, dude, I can literally jump on the phone today and have a signed contract by this week and potentially be in escrow by next week, basically.
That's right.
It's very rarely that you'll be able to do that with a just listed, just sold, basically.
No, that's 100% true. And there was frequent times where I could speak to somebody in the morning and be in their house in the afternoon and have a signed listing agreement, in
Yeah.
terms of expires. Like, that's totally a realistic uh,
Expectation.
expectation. So I think that idea of a funnel would be actually really good for people because they can visualize and see that, and this awareness that, and I think you would agree that, let's say for that individual who's willing to make 50 contacts a day, it's like, dude, you're willing to work, or do that, you're willing to work, you're willing to put in the time. You're just stacking time on lead sources that have much longer cash conversion cycles, and you're
But
getting frustrated as a result.
and what I notice with the people that are calling the just listed, just sold is that they avoid the expires because it takes a higher level of
Level of
skill.
skill. Yeah. And there's more rejection. You know what I
There's
mean? Like, it's
more rejection, there's more angry people, there's more frustration, but that forces you. So I am so glad, bro, that I did expires at the beginning of my career because it forced me to compete on every listing appointment that I went on. And it forced me to learn how to win and how to compete at the highest level and how to make adjustments. If you're doing just listed, just sold, the competition, you're competing against the best of the best sometimes when you're going against the expires, basically.
That's right. Yeah, and it's a really good place to really acquire that specialized knowledge of selling at a really high level, because almost invariably every single time you're competing, there is an urgency. There's a little bit of a pressure, to kind of deliver and get in there quickly and help them to make a decision and authorize an agreement. So handling objections, all of those things, getting better at pricing property, because those properties don't sell primarily because of price, whether the agent wasn't skilled enough to help them to realize where they needed to be at, or the seller was just, a little bit of stubbornness or obstinance to making that adjustment, and they need somebody to help them to self-discover. So makes a lot of sense. So doing an analysis on your lead sources. And I would also propose looking at the context of the marketplace that we're in and saying, hey, in the marketplace that we're in, with rates still high, with inventory climbing, are my lead sources such that they would allow me to continue to grow moving forward?
That is so important, and I'll tell you why. I have agents that wanna join EXP, and they'll
Yeah.
come to me and they're like, "Hey, you know what I'm doing?" And I'm like, "What?" He's like, "I'm signing up for all of the bank-owned websites, and I'm gonna get all I saw this webinar, and they said how foreclosures are coming back, and that when they come back, we gotta position us, and it's gonna cost me $2,000, but when they come back, I'm gonna be ready." And then what I do, I'm like, "Hey, look, dude, I'm not here to bust your bubble." I'm like, "Do you know how many foreclosures there are right now?" And they're like, "No." I'm like, "You think if you're gonna build a business model around foreclosures, you should know how many foreclosures there are at the present moment?" He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Do you know how many foreclosures there were when the market crashed?" He's like, "No." I'm like, "Do you think it would be wise to know how many there were just so that you can get some perspective as to how many foreclosures there are right now compared to then?" And then it was so funny because some of these people were like around COVID, like, bro, there's 5 foreclosures going on right now because there's a foreclosure memorandum. I'm like, I promise you, this is not the way right now. I'm like, I'm not saying it won't be the way, but it's not something that I would spend time on because I track all these things. I'm like, if I start seeing this number go up to the point where it it's trending towards 2008, dude, you better believe it. I am talking to all the asset managers and building relationships with them. But at this point, I'm not going to build the business model to get 3 listings in a year that requires all these BPOs and broker price opinions and different things. So I think what you said about that, it's very important to be like, okay, this is the avenue. How many of these leads are there, basically?
Yeah. And is there enough for me to be able to do what it is that I want to
Your
do, and for
goal,
me to
to do your
accomplish
goal.
my goals and objectives, right? If you want to do 10, 15 deals a year, then yeah, stick to the 4 horsemen. You know what I mean? If you want to do 50 to 100 transactions a year, you're going to need a lead source that is abundant, that you can go into the marketplace daily. So I think the false misperception is once I acquire these skills of what to say and how to say it, then that's going to solve everything. And it's like, well, sort of, right? It's important. At the same time, what am I applying? What am I stacking time on top of, those skills on top of, in terms of a lead source? And is it plentiful enough? Is it have enough depth to it, due to real data, demographics, whether that's probate, the silver tsunami, whether it's cash offers like we talk about, where we've had 5 years of aggressive inflation, record numbers of credit card debt, record numbers of student loan debt, um, record numbers of education debt. And as a result, cash offers, people just have a hard time paying their bills, man. So these are data-driven decisions. And you could take two people, I think you would agree, who are smart, hardworking, and ambitious. And one could apply that to red oceans in terms of lead sources. Another applies to the blue oceans. The one with the blue oceans is going to be multiple kind of factors, grow their business much quicker and much faster in the same allotment of time. And then if you were to look back in 4 or 5 years, one will be doing 100 plus deals. The other one will still be plateaued at like 20 plus deals a year.
Yeah, even for your sphere of influence, like, hey, look, are you touching base with your sphere of influence as well too? Are you asking them for referrals? Are you training them on how to identify referrals as well too? You
And that
know?
brings up a perfect point, because in this lead, one of the things we could do in terms of the checklist, do I have a multiple touch, let's call it a 42 touch plan in place for my past clients, centers of influence, for my database?
Yeah.
Because I think I know, in my experience, having worked with agents for over a decade, even ones that are successful, the vast majority of them don't. Right. So that would be a good thing to assess. Like, hey, on a scale from 1 to 10 or 1 to 3, how well do we have dialed in our past clients and centers of influence kind of touch program? Are we doing events once a quarter? Are we sending them something once a month via email or video? Are we calling them once a quarter? You know what I mean? Like, how are we interacting with them from a touch point perspective to increase the probability we can get, more business? And what can definitely make you throw up on the floor very quickly is to call through your database that you haven't been connecting with over an extended period of time and see how many of them have transacted.
Yeah. It was crazy. Last week I called a past client of mine, and he's like, "Jose, I've been looking for your number. I can't find it. I was literally about to do something else. I'm so glad that you called. And yesterday we got a listing signed.
That's so
1.3, bro. 1.3 million. Phenomenal. He's like, dude,
yeah,
I've been looking for it,
yeah,
which is I'm so glad that I called at the time that I did,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And just remember that, like, whenever you're lead generating, and this is going to be a different area, the servicing part, or the operations is the servicing part, but the whole name of the game, and this is something that I learned very early on in my career, is to build happy or satisfied, or people that are happy, or to build repeat clients. That's the whole point of it. To build people that want to come back and use your services because you provided them with a pleasant experience for selling their property.
yeah. You learn that working at your parents' shop, bro. Like,
Oh,
it's not
bro,
like, I don't want you to buy like one boot and one belt. I want you to come back all the time.
all the
Like,
time, bro.
that's right.
And it was amazing because very early on in my career, I had like 2 or 3 different clients, bro, that did like 4 to 7 transactions with me, and at that point, that was so helpful for me because, that was, like, just them coming back and doing multiple deals with me, I
That's
didn't have
right.
to go out and find a new client.
Those are your Banda days. You know what I'm
I know, right?
saying?
Yeah.
Hey, anybody who wants to see, Google him. He's got a video with like 300,000 views dancing Banda. So, um, yeah, so we've talked about operations, we've talked about sales. Another one we could talk about as an individual agent is perhaps around like skill development,
Yeah.
right? So like, do I have a plan in place to improve my skills, right?
Am I role playing twice a day?
That's
1 to
right.
3.
Am I role playing twice a day?
Do I
Am
role
I
play with people that do more business than I do? 1 to
Yep,
3.
1 to 3.
Am I
I
role
love
playing with a different person on each one of my role play. Because I know people that are like, yeah, role play with the same person 7 days a week. And I'm just like, bro, you're never going to learn versatility
No,
because
that's like if
different
you like
people.
you're gonna call the same seller like every week. That's not gonna happen. You're never gonna get to different personality types. You're never gonna get different kind of approaches, different temperaments.
Am I role playing with different genders?
Yep.
Meaning, like, I know people that like I only role play with guys. I'm like, bro, are you not planning on freaking having women that are
Yeah.
clients?
Pick up the phone.
Like,
Yeah, like, I don't
do you
understand.
do you think that I'm like, there's going to be a versatility aspect of it. Role playing with the women, they're going to give you different feedback. They're
That's
going to
right.
give you different input.
Do I role play specifically things that I'm weak at?
Yeah.
Because
Am I?
oftentimes what I find is that agents will do the stuff that they feel really comfortable with. And we do this on that role play thing we do on Wednesdays because they'll be like, "Hey, here's what I'm having a problem with," and they'll want to start at the top. We're like, "Hey, we don't need to start at the top.
You got that.
Let's You got that, bro. Like, you don't need to keep running through that. Let's focus specifically and intentionally and purposely on the thing that's tripping you up or the thing that's giving you static."
Yeah. Like, hey, what company do you work for? You
Yeah.
know, that was one of them. You know, like,
Bro,
hey,
we
what
spent like
company?
20, 30 minutes just talking about that. You know what I mean? Because I know that one objection can literally be the difference, bro, of like an extra listing a month. Where
Yeah.
you just like get stuck and then boom, done. Versus like if you know how to handle that, it's another opportunity, another appointment, and you start to just list more of those properties on a regular basis. I also thought it was really cool on that call, like kind of unwinding, where we think that it's just like what we're saying, but it's actually the
The
belief
belief.
underneath.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like, what would you have to believe to be true for that to trip you up?
I took some
Uh,
notes on that.
yeah, that was pretty good, right?
Yeah.
That was solid. So yeah, like around skills, right? Oh, do I actively daily practice my listing presentation? Because how can you possibly get good at something you don't do all the time? It's not possible.
Do I listen to Morales Group University?
There you go. Am I plugged into Morales Group University?
You
And if you're
know?
partnered with us, it's free.
Yeah.
If you're not, he doesn't need your money, but he'll take it. Right?
That's what
um,
right?
yeah. So like, what are we doing skill wise, right?
So
If you want to get even,
that's a category, skill development in the assessment, basically.
that's right. And by answering these questions, we can get clear on what needs the most kind of assessment, like the most attention, right? The most work behind it. And I think that by doing those three things, like skills, we got operations, we got leads, and then, obviously we can get to, I think for agents too, at some point, it makes sense for them to really be looking at like the money. So like, am I commingling funds? Do I have two separate credit cards, one for personal, one for business? Am I reconciling every month like expenses and income? Do I have
Could
a bookkeeper?
yeah. Could you tell me what your profit is today, year to date?
That's right.
You know?
That's good. Yeah. Can you tell me what percentage of your income goes towards lead gen?
Do you show up even on appointments? Do you show up well groomed? Do you do you show up in a suit?
Yeah, that
You
could be
know?
on the sales part. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Sales
yeah.
part. Do you show up in business attire,
Attire.
basically? Do you show up in business attire, like
Wait,
professional?
and on the sales part, am I regularly late to appointments?
Do I present on an iPad?
Yep. Which is wild, bro. I mean, even when I gave you static, that was like, I don't even know how long that was ago. That was like years ago, bro. Probably like 8 years ago, 10 years ago, where I was like, bro, what are you doing?
Well,
And
I thought
now for people to be doing that is crazy to me.
well, I thought about it, when I recently, because there was something that happened where somebody called me like, "Yo, dude, like, can you come over, like, in 30 minutes?" And I was like, "Dude, I did the comps really fast, uploaded them to Dropbox. I have a blank listing agreement that I
Yeah,
could just fill out. Boom, I'm there. I'm getting a contract signed, you know?" But
that's right.
I couldn't do that with the old system.
Nope, you could not. And this, by asking these questions, it'll bring that to the surface. Like
Yeah.
to be clear that that's what's going on.
Am I pre-qualifying 100% of my appointments?
Yeah, every single one of the appointments. Again, if we go back to
Wha-
the sales
One
part.
1 to 3.
Yep. Oh,
One
am I asking
being
all the questions? 1 to 3. Am I omitting some because I don't like them? Uh, am I sending something out every single time before I see them? Right,
yeah.
like a pre-listing thing with an email, right? Do I have a pre-listing package? And if so, does it have silly pictures of me with my cat or my dog or like,
Am I getting contract signed in the first meeting,
ooh, that's good. Yep, for sales.
or am I having to go back?
Yep. What percentage of the time do I have to go back? That's real good because that
Because
demonstrates that
that closing.
it's closing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's good. So, I mean, by looking at these different categories, we've only talked about 4, right? We talked about sales, we talked about operations, we talked about or leads, operations, skills, and money, right?
So
And do I have the money for taxes at the end of every year? Right? Again, do I have a bookkeeper? Am I doing my own taxes or do I have an accountant? Like simple things, right? And just by looking at these 4, you can come up with at least 12 things with a high degree of probability that you could focus on and implement over the next 14 months. Because doing this in October means we're ahead of the game because most people don't look at this stuff until January. Most people, you know what their cycle is. They don't work for the fourth quarter. They stop working basically like in a few weeks after Halloween. They don't think about business at all, right? The kind of environment and culture tells us to stop working, spend all our money, and put whatever we want in our mouth. That leads to New Year's resolutions every single year. It's like this collective hallucination. January comes around, so he's like, "Oh man, I'm really excited for the new year. This year is going to be my year. Great." They don't get back into the kind of the flow until like the 7th or the 10th, and then they're thinking about this stuff. Then trying to create a business plan. It's like, bro, you're behind.
not that, but the fourth quarter starts now. The activities that you do today is going to be the business that you bring in the first quarter.
Mm-hmm. Hey, listen to Mario. He's like, bro, this feels all too personal. Yeah, yep, sure does.
Mario, how
And
did
that's
you know we
true.
were talking about you, bro? I'm just
Exactly, bro.
kidding.
And I think like I told somebody this before, and I know you get it too, because like now, and you're pretty much there too, bro. Like where you're like the unk to these like young up and comers, and these 20+ year olds that are like ambitious and hardworking and want to build an empire, right? And I said something to him, and I was like, "Hey, man, nobody feels more anxiety or stress than a young person who feels like they're behind." And you have to remember, like, this takes time, right? So, in order to build, let's say what Jose's built or what I built, like, that's systematically over an extended period of time, doing analysis like this, picking 5, 7, 8, 10 of these things to focus on, and then breaking them down into quarterly chunks and then executing on them, implementing them. So, hey, let's say you're not role playing with different people all the time. Great. That's going to be something I want to have dialed in by the end of the fourth quarter. Hey, I'm not asking all the prequal questions. Great. I'm going to start doing that now. And I'm going to start role playing with my partners and having them call me out when I forget to ask questions like, hey, you strike me to be someone who's super straightforward and to the point. I'm the same way. So when we do connect, provided it all makes sense and you feel comfortable and confident with me that I can help, you do that due diligence, you check me out online, you see track record and reviews. Do you think you would be open to the possibility of hiring me when I see you tomorrow at 6? We omit that so much because we're just afraid to get the response, right? So choosing these things, right? Let's say you need a bookkeeper. Great. You do the research. You reach out to me and Jose. We give you contact information. It's just a money thing. Pay the money, get the bookkeeper, right? And systematically, as you implement these things, dude, 12 months can go by. You implement 5 things in your business, not 10, 12. You implement 5 from this checklist that are really key areas where there's a big weakness. Bro, your business and life will be completely different in 12 months. And then we just do it again, right? In October or around this time in the fourth quarter next year.
Yeah, I agree. I was thinking about something, but I'm getting old, bro. I can't remember anymore. I'm losing my memory.
How old are you? 38? You'll be 39 this year, right?
No, 39 next year.
Yeah, next year. Yeah. But it's
2036.
coming up. Yeah. It's so good. Yep. Yeah, you're Unk now, bro.
And it was something about that, but I can't remember.
Yeah.
Let me see if I got a
So
funny noise.
no, wait, see if you can hear mine.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one
Okay.
of those old people moments. That's what's happening. Uh, so yeah, but I think that this exercise is really great. The other thing I think is really cool about this, Jose, is that like you're doing it. So like even at your level of production, like you're doing it still. I'm doing it still, where I'm looking at everything I'm doing and being like, hey, where do we need to focus? Where do we need to like put capital? Do we need to hire new people? Do we need to, perhaps look at some of our processes and systems? What's the ultimate goal and objective, and what could we implement now, so that way moving forward in 2026 it's already going and that's moving in that direction.
Yeah. And this is something that I used to do weekly. So I had a weekly business plan that on Sunday nights, I would look back at my week. I would add up all my contacts, how many listing appointments I went on, how many listings I took. And then I think a couple of additional things I would have on there is like, what books am I going to read this week?
Yeah.
What specific scripts am I going to work on this week? How many times will I role play this week? And I used to do that every single week. I still have it. You know, it's funny. I've actually saved a lot of the stuff that I used to do just because I figured that one day I'm going to want to like
One day
look
somebody's
back
going
at
to
it.
ask you to like sign it or something. It'll be memorabilia.
Yeah. You know,
They'll be like, yo, can you sign your headset for me? No, but it is cool to look at, because I kept all of the
journals, right?
well, that, and I also used to I laminated. I would write a letter to myself
Yeah.
basically in the fourth quarter for the following year at the end of the year. So I'd write a letter, let's say in December of 2025 for
Like a
December of
year
20.
end statement, basically.
Yeah. And I could even recite some of it to you, because I would read it every single day, like day in and day out. Every single day it was something that I read. And what was really cool to watch is the progression, because it would start with like, hey, Aaron, I'm so proud of you and what you've accomplished this year. You say disciplined and consistent. You worked harder than anyone in your marketplace. And because of that, you did X amount of deals and you made X amount of money. And wow, I'm like so proud of you. You've also read all these books and da da da. Okay. Well, what's cool to go back, and I have them laminated, was to watch the progression. So to
Of
see
the
the change
thinking
of the
in your
thinking,
mind.
where the biggest thing I could think was like, and you made $175,000. Like, wow, it's amazing. And then to watch like 5 years later, where now I'm saying like, and you made $600,000, and then like you made 800, and you made right, to watch basically the progression, the change in thinking, but also the change in identity, like the way that you see yourself, because you can only behave in accordance with the way you see yourself. So I think it is a cool thing to kind of document the journey. And in many ways, what I view now, what we're doing here, like with these live streams and
Yeah,
like what me and you
documenting
are
it.
both doing, we're documenting.
Yeah.
Because wouldn't it be so cool? Like I'm sure you would love. I know I would. Like Carla's great grandfather, he was a business mogul. Like he owned tobacco farms in Cuba. Like he owned apartment buildings. Like one of his spaces, like Coca-Cola was like the tenant. And I was like, wouldn't it be amazing to see him at his peak talking about what he was doing and how he was doing it? Like, I mean, it's so cool. Imagine like, hey, gather around. We're gonna watch Grandpa Jose talk about something. Like, that's so cool. So what you're creating is like this kind of living document on this platform. Now, unfortunately, we don't own the platform, right? So platforms can go away and things of that nature. But the content, it's something that people can go back to and they can revisit and they
Yeah,
can
for
watch
sure.
for generations. You know what I'm saying? Like if Sebastian now is flirting with, I hear him say to people, I'm like, whatever you want to do, bro, is fine. And they'll be like, hey, what do you want to do? And he's like, I'm going to give the soccer thing a try. But if that doesn't work out, maybe I'll try to do real estate. And when I hear that, I'm just like, all right, that's cool. He's like, oh, bro, I saw way more homes than you ever did. I'm like, okay, like, we'll see. Yeah, exactly. I'm like, yeah, okay. I mean, I hope you do, bro, but like, we'll see. And, but what's cool is now there's all of this, data that they can go back and kind of watch and see.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would encourage everybody to kind of document that journey. But it is critically important at this time of the year, because if you don't, I'm telling you, yeah, from your TOs, I'm telling you, if you don't be intentional and purposeful, at this time of the year, look at your business, figure out where the weaknesses are, where the strengths are, and where the weaknesses are, what needs focus, pick out those rocks that you can implement moving forward. Bro, you're leaving it to chance. And this is way too important to leave to chance.
Yeah.
Like, it's way too important to your significant others. It's way too important to the charities that you fund. It's way too important to your children. It's way too important to leave to chance and to the whims of the marketplace. You can create your own market. You can create your own demand, right? You do have to be intentional and purposeful about it, though.
Yeah, I agree, 100%. Yeah, it was so good having those consultants over, bro. It was like, man, that was like, and it's funny because when the day is coming up, I'm like, ah, damn.
Are you?
Like, I'd
A
rather
little
do
bit? Because it's a
prospecting,
full
like,
day, right?
a full day, bro. It's like,
But
yeah,
it's all hands on deck too, right? Like the whole team's there.
yeah. We even changed our core values as well too. Like, not changed them. We got rid of 2.
Are you
Like, so
looking at them right now?
yeah. So we go through this exercise where, like, you'll write down your core values or what you believe to be them, and then and I learned this from one of the consultants when he came over, and they'll ask you and they'll be like, hey, if you had to get rid of which one would you get rid of?
Mm,
And if you actually get rid of it, it means it wasn't important to you.
yeah.
You know, the right response should be like, no, like, I can't get rid of any of these. And there
Right.
was 2 on there that were just on there that were almost like repetitive,
Mm,
and we're on there just for the sake of being on there. So we actually limited it. So we hustle and we work hard. We just put strong work ethic. Like, everybody who works on our team has a strong work ethic. Um, we have a growth mindset, meaning like everybody on the team like reads books and is into personal development. We're team players and we do the right thing. Those are like the 4 core values. So we had
solid.
6. Yeah.
That's super good. But without that kind of pruning, which is really the process of what you're doing with the business, is like you're pruning. You're looking at it and saying, hey, what needs to be clipped? Because like pruning and gardening is you clip stuff so that way you can help it and it can grow. So pruning initially may be like a little painful, but like it's actually needed for growth, right? You prune away what's not needed, and then
Yeah.
the fruit can continue to develop. And that's what we're doing in our business, right? Is by monitoring it. So, sit down with somebody that you know and trust. You know what I'm saying? Have them. You can do this in multiple different ways. The first is sit down with yourself and say, hey, like an honest assessment. Maybe go back, watch this video, see the questions, break it down into those 4 quadrants, right? Or those 4 different categories, and ask yourself those questions and say, hey, what are strengths and what do I need work on? And it'll become very clear. And it only works if you're honest. Okay. You have to like take out pride, put it aside. Because Jose said something that was really important. He said, independent of the skills that you need to learn. So, like, independent of how you feel about it, independent of the way you think you are, because some people, we have this overinflated sense of self. In America, like the thing we rate highest on is not math scores or biology scores, it's confidence. But confidence without competence is dangerous because it causes us to have this false misperception that we're better than we are. And then we start to feel entitled, and then we don't want to do the work that's necessary in order to accomplish stuff. Right.
And then you complain because you're not getting the results that you're not getting. Like, I've known plenty of people that are not getting the result that they want and think that they are better than they actually are. But the marketplace
100.
is not agreeing with them.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. So, and the marketplace is giving you direct feedback. It's not agreeing with you. So, looking at all these kind of categories, ask yourself these questions, go through, write out the questions. You can probably transcribe this with AI or something. Get those questions, ask yourself the questions. Then, with a mentor or a guide or somebody that you trust, tell them what you're seeing and then ask them for like a little kind of guidance. Like, hey, what do you think I should focus on first? What do you think is the most important? Right. And you could DM me, you could DM Jose like it's me. I'll actually respond to you. You could reach out, ask any questions. You can hop on our calls on Wednesday, which the role play calls, and ask questions. I personally have office hours in our school community. You can ask me whatever you want. Right. And you don't have to pay for it, which is pretty dope. So that's how I would go about doing this. But I would propose or suggest that it's critical. If you're serious about 2025 ending on a strong note and you're serious about 2026 being an awesome year, that saying, cliches exist for a reason. Failure to like plan is or failure to prepare is preparing to fail, right? So like if you're not doing this kind of preparation, you're just going to sign up for more of the same. And no matter how many like, inspirational posts you put, or whether you go for runs or you do a marathon or you do cold plunges or you have, I don't know, any inspiration that you think is going to make that different, it's just not, it's not true, man. The people that I know that produce the most favorable outcomes are wildly intentional. Like, think about this. Jose's on track to do about 150 deals this year, and he's sitting in a room for a whole day doing this. Do you see what I'm saying? The people I know that produce the best outcomes, they prepare, dude. They plan. Now they're flexible, right? But they also plan. So get it done. There's no excuses.
Today.
According to It's so good. I got to get some more of those, bro. It's so fun. Well, listen, brother, I appreciate you, man. Nice seeing you as always. Go sell some more homes. Let's go. Let's grow. Talk soon.
All right. Later. Bye.
Peace.